Okay.
हो गया?
जी.
Thank you, Sanya.
इसको ना वो रखना, मैं आ रहा हूँ मीटिंग से, ठीक है?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of SCERT Education. I and Sanya would like to welcome all the panel members and the participants to the webinar on communities of practices. We would like to extend our special thanks to SCERT Delhi and Directorate of Education Delhi. It is my pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of SCERT Education. We would like to extend our special thanks to SCERT Delhi and Directorate of Education Delhi for providing us an opportunity for setting up this webinar on communities of practices. Now I would like to welcome John McIntosh, our Director of Design Programme Readiness. Along with it, I would also like to welcome the esteemed panel members to the webinar. I would like to extend thanks to Mr. Rajanish Singh, Director SCERT, for providing this opportunity to organize this webinar. Now I would like to extend welcome to Mr. Shailendra, Principal Advisor, Director Education. Along with him, I would like to welcome Dr. Anil Teotia, Principal, Dilshad Garden, Dr. BP Pandey, Officer on Special Duty, Directorate of Education, and Nodal Officer of TDC and MT Program, Directorate of Education. I would also like to welcome Dr. Kumar Pathak, Nodal Officer of Insert Cell and TDC Program. We also have along with us Ms. Bhavna Savnani, Mentor Teacher of Directorate of Education, and Ms. Neeru Vijh, Teacher Development Coordinator from Directorate of Education. Welcome all. Now I would like to hand over this session to John for starting his discussion and sharing on global experiences of communities of practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shalab. And yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome to all our esteemed panelists. It's a real pleasure to be here today for me personally and for SCERT Education to be part of this. Delhi, I think, has unquestionably been at the forefront of education globally in running effective communities of practice, not just for teachers with high impact, but for those who support teachers as well. So I'm personally really excited to hear from some of the people who've been crucial in making that happen today. And we've 7 esteemed panelists, 6, sorry, that Shalab has introduced us with us today, who are each going to bring their own unique insights into how Delhi has made this approach work. So we're all really looking forward to hearing from all of you. And thank you for being with us today, and thank you for having me. Just to briefly introduce myself and SCERT, yeah, my name is John McIntosh. So I'll be chairing today's discussion. So SCERT, we're an international NGO that seeks to foster the intrinsic motivations of teachers and those who work in education systems. And alongside our partners in Delhi, we also work in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, in southern India, and Uganda in Africa, and Indonesia in Southeast Asia. So we, in our approach, see communities of practice and teacher networks as a really crucial channel for improvement. We've been working with the government here in Delhi in various forms over the past 10 years. And it's been a real honor for us to have been on that journey with you. And we as an organization, I think, have benefited enormously from your expertise in pushing our own thinking and practice around the development of teacher networks as well. So on behalf of SCERT Education, thanks to all of you as well. Shalab, am I okay to share my screen?
Yes. I think you have the right to share.
Yeah. So if we... So just to give a brief overview of the rest of the discussion. So I'm going to do a quick overview on some of the global evidence around communities of practice and what makes them work. We'll then have a panel discussion with our 6 panelists, which will take about 50 minutes. And then there'll be time for an audience Q&A after that, before some closing remarks. So that will be the flow of today's session. Now, in terms of this overview of the evidence of communities of practice, I'm going to break this down into 3 questions. So the first is, what do we actually mean by this term communities of practice? And just looking at some definitions to make sure that we all have a shared understanding of what we're talking about. And then we'll be looking at what do we know about whether they work or not? What is their impact on students and other stakeholders in the systems in which they are deployed? And then finally, what are the conditions that need to be in place for positive impact to occur? So those are the 3 questions that we're going to be looking at, which will set us up for our discussion afterwards. So in terms of definitions, what's actually meant by this term community of practice? Well, broadly, when we talk about community of practice in any sort of professional setting, we're talking about getting professionals to come together and collaborate to support each other to improve in some way towards a given goal. There's lots of different terms, particularly in education, that are used to describe this. So we'll also see things like professional learning communities or PLCs. We'll see the term teacher networks, because it's usually talking about teachers, teaching and learning groups, among others. Now, while there are some subtle differences at times between these things, broadly, there are things that they all have in common. And these have been captured by the work of the British academic Louise Stahl, who sort of said, you can see that communities of practice, professional learning networks, teacher networks, all sort of have 3 main elements. So one is that they are a space for collaboration, for teachers and professionals to sort of work together and support each other. The second is that they are a space for teachers to engage in the critical interrogation of practice. What that means is it's a chance for them to look at and examine new and existing strategies and decide and make decisions on how they might or might not integrate them into their own practice. And then the final characteristic is that they tend to be spaces for reflection, for teachers to think about what is working and not working in their practice, and then what they can do about that as a result of that reflection. So that's broadly what we mean when we talk about communities of practice. Now, in terms of impact, what do we actually know about whether the existence of these communities of practice is positive or not? So I'm going to talk about this in 2 levels. So the first is, what's the impact of this on students' learning? And there is good evidence from across the globe that communities of practice help to boost learning for students. Now, most of the evidence we have is about how it affects students' literacy and numeracy. But there's good evidence, for example, from the USA, from studies that have been done in elementary schools, that communities of practice can improve these things. And also in India as well. We saw in our own work with affordable private schools in Delhi that communities of practice had a positive impact on children's numeracy. Now, there's lots of other examples too, but these are just but 2. Having said that, that's not to say that communities of practice always have positive impact on student learning. A study from the Netherlands in 2018 examined a number of communities of practice and their impact on students, and they found a very mixed picture, where some seemed to work and some did not. And we'll come back to that in a moment when we talk about the conditions to try to understand why that might have been. Now, the other thing that we want to understand about the evidence is, what is the evidence on the participants, the people who actually are part of these communities? How does it affect their behaviour? Well, a very recent summary of the evidence, which was commissioned by our partner charity, VVOB, along with the University of Glasgow in Scotland, they discovered that communities of practice have a very, very broad range of positive outcomes on teacher behaviours, with collaboration being the main one of these. And collaboration is enormously important for teachers. We know that where teachers collaborate effectively, it leads to very, very important and improvements in their practice and in their motivation and feeling about their job and work. The other thing that communities of practice also have a good effect on is teacher efficacy. And what that means is their ability to think about and select new practices and existing practices and how to use them effectively in the classroom. So we know from the evidence that communities of practice can be very effective in changing these things. Now, I think in terms of the next part of the discussion, for me, this is the really key question. What are the conditions that need to be in place for a community of practice to be successful? And this is where I think our panel discussion will be really illuminating when they talk about the experience in Delhi as well. So from the same study, we know that there needs to be really clear purpose that is grounded in improving teaching and learning. If a community of practice doesn't do that, it's unlikely to be successful in changing those behaviours that we mentioned before for the better. Secondly, there needs to be a really strong, wider system of leadership support. School leaders and the wider education ecosystem, which may include education officials, district officials, and others, need to understand that purpose and create the conditions for them to work. Then there's also practical things that need to be in place. There needs to be the necessary infrastructure. Now that means physical infrastructure, in that there's got to be places for teachers to meet. They've got to have the resources they need in order to capture and share learnings. But it also refers to like time and space and making sure that this is built into their timetables and routines, and they know when they will be doing this. And then the last thing is, for them to work, there's got to be very high levels of professional trust between those who participate as well. For collaboration to work, to take seriously the advice and suggestions of colleagues, you've got to trust what they're saying. So creating this culture of trust is also a real prerequisite to making these work. I think also from our perspective, when we look at the evidence, we see very key links to some of the core principles that underpin both our approach as an organisation, but also how the approach in Delhi works, with these links to intrinsic motivation and the concepts of autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, clearly teachers need to be able to have the time and space to properly engage with this, and they need to have the professional trust with others in order to want to work together with them. Mastery, the idea that we want to improve and make progress, for that to happen, there's got to be a clear focus on a goal that we're trying to get to. So in this case, improving teaching and learning. And then again, If you're getting feedback and suggestions from others, you've got to trust what they're saying if it's going to help you improve. And then purpose, similarly to the first one, there's got to be that clear purpose, and there's got to be that connection to others in the system as well. So that's a very brief whistle stop of some of the evidence on communities of practice and what we think makes them effective. And we're now really looking forward to hearing from our panelists on this as well. So I'll stop sharing my screen. So the way that the panel discussion will work, I'm going to ask each of our esteemed panelists a question, and they are going to give their response. So each person will have about 5 minutes to respond to their question, just given time and making sure that everyone has got a chance to sort of share. Once your 5 minutes is up, I'll let you know and ask you to sort of wrap up. Perfect. So we're going to start with Mr. Shailendra Sharma, for the first question. So Shailendra sir, could I ask you, what do you feel have been the key lessons in implementing communities of practice across the system in Delhi?
Just no, Shailendra is not here. He's coming within 2 minutes.
Oh, so, no problem. Oh, thank you, Pandey sir. Thank you. In which case, we'll come back to Shailendra sir. So Pandey sir, that actually comes to you then. If you would be happy to take the first question. What would you say, Pandey sir, have been the key questions in the key successes and challenges in running communities of practice for the key support stakeholders in the system? So these would be the key officials such as teacher development coordinators and mentor teachers. And if you can briefly explain what each of those are as well.
Oh, that's nice. Very good questions. Lots of impact are seen in the schools here. Shailendra is also here with me. And just he'll join every month, almost all the TDC.
I think we can start with Shailendra ji. I think that would be nice.
Yeah. Shailendra is here. Okay, sir. Yeah, please.
Oh, hi, Shailendra sir. Nice to see you.
Hi, John.
Okay, well, we'll revert back to the original order then, Shailendra sir. So, would you mind taking our first question, which is, could you tell us, for you, what have been the key lessons in implementing communities of practice across the system in Delhi?
So, in terms of, say, key lessons, I would say that what we basically learned was that there's a huge potential of creating a platform like this. In a sense that teaching is such a vibrant work. Teachers engage with the students every day. Every year you have different set of students. So the accumulated experience keeps getting stored, but there isn't a structured platform more often for the teachers to be able to share each other's learning and experiences. So what our key takeaway over the last 3-4 years that we have been running this TDC program in our schools is the teachers got that platform. And one of the things we also learned was this is not a very smooth process. It takes its own time to settle down. So if we are designing something like this, we should not be in a hurry to make sure, because it's a natural process. And that is why the way we designed our academic resource team, it was more like a voluntary thing. So I think going voluntary mode was a good idea for us because that gave time for the teachers to absorb. More and more teachers seeing what their other colleagues are doing, what kind of sharing is happening there, they started joining. So I think all in all, if I were to summarize, I would say that it became a good platform to have academic discussion, share each other's pedagogical practices, and it's a natural progression which takes its own time to settle down. But once the teachers are convinced that this is a great idea and they have something to learn, they actually take very active part in the whole process.
Thanks, Shailendra, sir. Really, really interesting response there. I was particularly interested in what you said about the importance of making it voluntary for teachers to participate in this. Could I maybe ask you to say a bit more about that and why you feel that was such an important thing to learn?
You see, what happens is that whenever you are coming up with new idea, and which requires, say, spending time, resources and all, in a big system like government, there's always a possibility of initial resistance, because it is not that you will have everybody ready to catch up what you are coming out. Sometimes it's a great idea, you think it is great, but how do you communicate that it is great? And there's an old saying which goes, people live more by examples than by reasons. So no matter how much reason you give, unless you demonstrate, you give an example that what benefit it can create, don't expect. And therefore, that is why we made it voluntary. You come, you participate, you see. If you think that it is adding value, be the part of academic resource team. And we realized that over a period of time, this tribe increased.
Yeah, thank you, Shailendra. So many useful lessons there, I think, as well. I really like that point about the importance of, showing people examples, and what you said there about creating that sense of sort of purpose, as well, in laying down that challenge. So yeah, lots of food for thought there. I suppose that segues naturally then into the next question, which was the one that I asked Pandey sir at the beginning, and I'll ask him to pick up here. So Pandey sir, I'll pose that question again that I asked. For you, what do you feel have been the successes and challenges in running communities of practice, not just for teachers, but support stakeholders?
You've asked the right question to the right person.
Great.
Go ahead, Pandey.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, John. Actually, just Shailendra sir also discussed about this is the good platform for academic discussion here, and a lot of I think impact visible in the schools. I can say that every month almost all TDC schools are organize art meeting, which is impacted in shifting the staff room discussion to become more academic oriented and student centric. Yeah. And the mentor teachers have supported the art meeting for organizing co-learning session and hand holding the TDC wherever and whenever needed. TDC, many of whom become the mentor teachers also themselves here, and there are ample opportunity have been created to the work upon the facilitation of skills of TDC. School level challenges and best practices are discussed to regular basis through art meeting or DPCM at district level, which gave opportunity to plan, identify creative solution for the problems. Mentor teachers observe and provide constructive feedback to TDC and how to improve the quality of art meeting. Diets are also now more connected with the schools and their need through the art meeting. So need-based themes are taken up for the discussion. Time allotments for art and faculty meetings for quality education are visible here, and various newsletters and action research project of on this things TDC are itself a measure for its success. This is the success, and the challenges are, yes, still there. Still we have there is problem to bridge the gap between academic and its administrative, and coming out the culture of circular driven approach here. So this is something gap here, and also we are in the process to transfer the learning based practices discussion in the art meeting to the non-art members of that school, that is teachers, other teachers. And art meeting, I think just a minute, art meeting and non-art members, that is all teachers of the school, we are trying to create collective ownership towards the student and the schools here. Trying, but not fully success here. See, thank you very much, John.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Again, one of the things I think is just really, really compelling about the program in Delhi is this multi-layered approach, and just like how well thought through the TDC and MT support is. And it's interesting to hear those challenges as well about sort of navigating the different parts of the system as well and bringing together the academic and administrative parts too.
In fact, here, in fact, mentor teachers also here and TDC also here, they can explain better because they are practitioners over there in the school. So they can say better than this one. And
yeah, definitely. And we'll look forward to hearing their perspective as well. Absolutely. One thing I thought was also very interesting that you mentioned the role of the DIETs, the District Institutes of Education and Training. And Anil, so maybe that segues into a question for you as well. Could you talk a little bit about what the DIET facilitators do and what role they play in supporting the communities of practice for the teachers, TDCs and MTs?
Okay. Hello, John McIntosh, and good afternoon to one and all. And before the invention of this program, as earlier Pandey ji stated very clearly, we are working in isolation sometime. But after the launching of this program, as you all are aware, the Teacher Development Coordinator means TDC program is an initiative taken by SCERT and Directorate of Education under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister and Minister of Education, Mr. Manish Sisodia ji. As an extension to the flagship mentor teacher program with the vision to create a collaborative network of teachers teaching in Delhi government schools. Basically, it is not the new idea, it is the extension of mentor teacher program, in my opinion. And this program focuses on teachers' professional development through initiative at multiple platforms. Through TDC program, all stakeholders get an opportunity to experience and opportunity to experience the journey or professional growth. You know, the vision of this program is to create a system of learning as all stakeholders believe in this system, every child can learn and every can learn. And this vision requires setting up some priorities like improving students' foundation skills, as you are also mentioned in your talk. Foundational skill related to language literacy and mathematical numeracy, also mentioned in NEP 2020 also. Achieving learning outcomes and ensuring all-round development of kids through creation of child-centered pedagogy. in real sense child-centered pedagogy, not in only in words, and improving teachers' classroom practice to make them more engaging and supporting learning with understanding. And the next priority is to enhance teachers' capacity and to improve teaching through classroom observation and constructive feedback. Many stakeholders have roles in this program to strengthen academic environment in educational institutions, especially teacher educator in DIETS or SCERT. They have very important role. This program work in a certain way. First, core design team, as I'm also the member of core design team. First core design team, the upcoming LIC learning improvement cycle. This This team consists of teacher educators, some
Shadab,
mentor.
can you mute everyone? Because
I have muted.
Okay, may I start?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So this core team consists of teacher educators, mentor teacher like Bhavna, and other teachers from school and the TDC like Neeru play key role in the ideation of all learning points. This is followed by co-learning session at DIETS facilitator, diet and diet facilitators at the session, leading to co-learning session along with mentor teacher also in diet, wherein teacher educator play the role of main facilitator in the session, and then the developed theme of LIC is communicated in cascade mode to the TTCs, that is teacher development coordinator from each and every school. This communication is completed through mentor teacher finally. Even at this point, teacher educator is still work as observer as well as facilitator also. And then the theme is discussed with teachers of school in art meeting by the TDCs, while teacher educator again continuously monitor and provide on-site and off-site support, and also support and guidance to make classroom process more engaging and supporting to learning with understanding. This whole process of theme creation and communication have some key ingredients which are in consonance with the vision of the program. Number one, at all levels, session promote co-learning, involve everyone learning from each other, and teacher educators also learn from mentor teacher and teacher and vice versa. Number two, in various LIC and co-learning sessions, all members follow the mantra of growth mindset, not closed mindset, with a belief that we all can grow with autonomy and mastery. With this, we have a lot of scope to ask questions continuously to promote a culture of critical thinking. Notably, teacher educators play a very significant role in promoting this type of culture. This program works on the principle of established culture of recognition and appreciation, not only inspection. And the teacher educator play prominent role in promoting this culture not at diet level, at all levels. Next one, developmental feedback is one of the significant tools to make this program a successful one. Teacher educator at state level and district level play super active role in designing, developing, and role modeling a system of practicing developmental feedback at, again, all levels. Further, teacher educators and other stakeholders promote a thought at all levels that mistakes are normal part of learning, and mistakes are not bad thing. Mistakes are a good thing for learning of any kind of child. And we, in a spirit of coordination and collaboration, can improve on our mistake. Teacher educator continuously work for developing a culture of fearless learning with all stakeholders. At last, teacher educator continuously also provide online and on-site support for the professional growth in different area. So we can say TDC programs aims to create an environment where teachers love teaching and children love learning. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks very much, Anil. So yes, so many things that we could go into there that you've mentioned, but I'm just going to pick up on a couple of them. So number one, I think you've talked a lot there about the role of the right culture. So you talked about growth mindset and making sure that people have sort of the right mental approach to this. And I think also the role of all the different parts of the system in making that happen. So you also mentioned the core design team as well through the DOE. So it's not just that people participate in these programs, they play a core role in actually creating them as well, which is, I think, really, really interesting. You also mentioned something very interesting about the importance of foundational skills, and maybe this segues naturally into the question for Vivendra sir as well, because there's obviously lots of other things that are going on in the Delhi education system. So, Anil, did you want to respond very quickly to that?
John, I would like to add one more thing. We all work in non-hierarchical position, not positional stage, like a principal or assistant professor, and mentor, teacher. We always work as a team in non-hierarchical position. It is also beauty of this program. With a member of STAR Education.
That, I think, is a really important point as well about this thing about leadership support that we talked about in the evidence too, and that creation of the environment and conditions. So thank you for adding that. Yeah, really, really important. Vivendra sir, if we could come to you to pick up this question about the different programs going on in the system, because as Anil sir talked about, there's a big push in foundational skills. There's a push on other things too. What role do communities of practice play in the alignment of the different programs that are running in the education system in Delhi?
Hello, John. And one and all, good evening, everyone. Today's discussion is on community practices. If I elaborate this concept, it refers to relationship built through discussion, activities, and learning through various trainings. SCERT has provided to develop a highly connected and strengthened community of teachers and teacher educators by practicing various methods and tools of teaching and learning. For an example, using synchronous, asynchronous methods of teaching, well-being check-ins, etc. in CP dot trainings recently launched by SCERT. CP dot stands for Continuous Professional Development of Teachers. Module 1, that is relationship building in an online mode between teacher and learner. A community of practices plays an important role in aligning different programs running in the system. Various programs are running, going on in the SCERT. First type of is going on in the SCERT and Directorate of Education. The reach of these programs to the last student would not have been possible without the community of practices. For an example, successful implementation of Business Blaster program. Business Blaster program, the Business Blaster program, a practical component of entrepreneurship mindset curriculum for classes 11th and 12th. The credit of its successful implementation goes to our community, starting from SCERT faculty to mentor teachers and TDC to students. Everybody is connected to it. And now we are on the process of selecting 100 teams of Business Blasters on the basis of detailed guidelines. So, we can say that therefore any other option is there. There are two types of programs in our system, curriculum, like the happiness curriculum, entrepreneurship mindset curriculum, Deshbhakti curriculum, and critical thinking for transformative learning is also a curriculum program. And second thing we are running, these are capacity building programs like mentor teacher program, CP dot just mentioned here, CP dot program, continuous professional development of teachers, CLDP, cluster leadership development program for heads of schools of DOE, and TDC program, teacher development coordinators program. These are capacity building programs. The mentor teachers and TDC are the prime face of DOE and SCERT. And through team and through them and support of academic faculty of SCERT and DIET, successful implementation of various curriculum have taken place in the schools of DOE, like happiness curriculum, EMC, TBC are running successfully in schools. And today we have started cohort 2. Cohort 2 today, a cohort 2 orientation program for nodal teachers of Deshbhakti curriculum, in which mentor teachers and SCERT DIET faculty, we train nodal teachers who will train teachers of their schools who will implement it in schools. In this way, community is working at its own level to make and program a grand success in the schools of Directorate of Education. And being nodal officer of TDC program and INSET, I pay gratitude to entire community to work hard and collectively so well that SCERT and Directorate of Education Delhi has become an example for entire nation. Teacher fraternity learn from each other, and we are achieving the process of learning, reflection, and strengthening of capacity through community of practices. Thank you, John. Over to you.
Thanks, Shailendra. It's so nice and also so interesting to hear the same themes sort of continuously come through in the answers, and the importance of this idea, I suppose, of two things. Like, number one, coherence, right? It's very clear from the answers we've had so far is that the system and the support system around the communities of practice through the roles of the MTs, the TDCs, the DIETs, the co-design team, DOE, SCERT, is just really well aligned, right, around making all this work. But what I also thought was very interesting about what you said, Vivendra sir, and also Anil sir talked about this a lot as well, was just this collective responsibility as well, and people being on kind of the same team and working towards this common purpose. So it's just really interesting to hear that come through so strongly in all the answers. And again, very consistent with what we know from the wider evidence as well about what is needed. I think that kind of also leads us to a nice transition here in terms of focus. So we are very honoured to have with us today Bhavna ma'am, one of our mentor teachers in Delhi, and Neeru ma'am, one of our TDCs. I think we'd love to hear a bit from them about what this actually looks like on the ground, right, and how this feels and is experienced. So Bhavna ma'am, perhaps we could start with you. Could you talk a little bit about what is the day-to-day experience of participating in a community of practice like for teachers, and how can we develop that further?
Okay, thank you so much, John, for asking this question. And to be honest, that like you asked, that what has been the experience? So in one word, I can say that experience has been extremely enriching. You know, so when we visit schools and when we become a part of these communities of practice, such meetings, it actually, you know, helps us to learn so much, so many new strategies which teachers are practicing in their classrooms. So first thing is that, you know, it is a kind of a great learning experience for, I think, all the mentors who are visiting schools and who are attending these meetings. As Sir rightly said a few minutes ago, that, you know, this program is basically based on growth mindset. So we believe that everyone can learn. We all, whether the adult or the child, we all have the capacity to learn at all stages of life. And we cannot confine the learning to the classroom only. So there is scope of learning through a dialogue, through communication, through sharing of our ideas, through sharing of our opinions. So this is the platform which gives us, that opportunity to share our thoughts, to share our challenges. And, a very beautiful theme which we had a few months ago was psychological safety, which was very beautifully designed by SCERT. And, it talked about psychological safety of teachers, of students, of everyone. So in these meetings, when teachers are actually sharing their challenges, they actually feel psychologically safe, because they are able to see that, I am not the only one who is having challenges in classroom. So there are, people around me who are there to listen to my problems, who are also facing challenges in classroom, and together we can work it out. So, it gives them that mental and moral support, that we have a community, we have like-minded people with us, with whom we can share our ideas and challenges, and we can together work out some solution of those problems. So this idea is actually very inspiring, very motivating for teachers, and it gives them that sense of social and emotional well-being, that I'm not alone, I'm not isolated. Like Sir said, that earlier we were isolated, but now we are not. We are actually now connected with each other. We are working in collaboration. So I would like to give a small example here of one of the practices that we followed. So in one of the ART meetings, academic resource,
I guess this is a technical glitch, a network related problem.
I think Bhavna lost.
Yeah.
The connection.
Bhavna joined again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Bhavna,
Can you hear me now?
continue, please.
I'm really sorry. There was some network issue. I'm really sorry.
No issue.
So in one of the ART meetings, one of the teachers shared that, in social science subject, the students have been performing quite low. And, they are not interested in studying social science. And how can we, really inculcate that interest in children in social science subject and also improve the result at the same time? Now, this was one challenge which was presented by one of the teachers, and we all sat together and we started thinking of that how we can, really help the children. So we thought of, let us organize a quiz. So we organized a quiz of these low achiever students by the high achiever students. So the questions were framed by the high achiever students for the low achiever students. So all the students were involved. And this quiz actually was so successful that, children actually started improving in their performance. And they also started studying social science, which earlier they were, running away from it. So this is how, we are able to work on practical problems that we face in schools. And when we try out a method, mentors, are like cross-pollinating agents of best practices. So we take these best practices and we share them in other schools. So, the other schools also, they get to know that, okay, we can also, why not? Let us try this out in our school also. And they also then share their list of practices. So a mentor has a bag of practices with them, and they carry from one place to another, and we keep sharing. And in the process, what happens is that since teachers are sharing their problems and they are working out solutions themselves, they actually turn to be reflective practitioners. They are able to, deep dive into problems, reflect on their problems, try out new strategies. So actually they are doing research, and they're actually, coming up with solutions that, yes, this idea works in class. And another important part is that, we as adults, we best learn through our peers. So any amount of a lecture may not help, like, Shailendra sir rightly said, that people learn more by example. They don't learn by teaching. So if I try to teach them, it won't work. But if they sit together, they do something, and if it works out, it actually helps in their learning. And when they share with each other, that peer learning actually, helps a lot. I would like to share another example, so once it happened that in one of the schools, it was shared that children are very good at studies. They are able to do well in small unit tests. But when it comes to board exams in class 10th or 12th, they are not able to write answers. They are not able to score marks. So what to do? So there, what we did was we planned out some strategies, some tips to score marks in board exams. So like, we shared which chapters are important, what answers can you write to get better marks, and then, how to write so that you are easily able to get marks without doing much hard work. So these are the kind of, experiments that we keep doing. And these experiments really actually help us to connect with our children, to connect with our teachers, and set an example before them that there might be challenges, but there are solutions too. And we can all work them out together. And as a whole, if I see about this communities of practice, there are few advantages which we can, rightly see. One, that our classrooms have become really joyful, because like, as sir rightly mentioned, that if teacher loves teaching, the learner loves learning. So, the overall environment of class has greatly improved because children are also now getting new pedagogies of by the teachers, because
Perhaps lost Bhavna ma'am again. But actually, I think there's a number.
I think we got more of the crux of her sharing.
There's a beautiful.
Yeah, I would just like to finish with one last point, if you allow me, John.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. What we have seen is, I was talking about the impact of this program. So a major impact has been that, the classroom environment has really improved. Second, we have seen a great improvement or development of facilitation skills of our TDCs. Our TDCs have emerged as leaders in their schools, and they have actually taken on the responsibility of the professional growth of their teachers in school. So they are like academic leaders now. So that has been a major impact. And the teachers have now learned that we are a community. We all can work together. We all can collaborate and achieve results. So I may be a science teacher. I may teach in my own class, but the methods that I
We'll maybe move on now to Neeru ma'am, because I think a lot of what Bhavna ma'am said before we lost her there, I think demonstrated a number of really beautiful points. So one of the phrases that she used, which I loved, was this mentor teachers being cross-pollinating agents of practice. I really like that as a way of describing the role of sort of seeing what teachers are doing and then spreading them. What I found fascinating about a lot of what you said as well, ma'am, was just this emphasis on the sort of the bottom-up nature of it, and kind of seeing what teachers are already doing that's working and helping to kind of spread that through working with each other as well. And I think the examples that you gave were really helpful in bringing to life like how that collaboration and professional reflection works, and why trust matters so much as well in doing all this. So I thought you really beautifully brought to life how some of the research looks in practice too. Neeru ma'am, I think one thing that would be really helpful to understand would be about like what does this actually look like in practice, in terms of when someone is part of an art and the academic resource team. What's that like for them? So could you share with us your experience of being part of an ART?
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, especially Mr. John. I would begin by saying a very simple sentence. I have begun to speak now, or rather, I have learned to speak now. That's not a 3-year-old saying something. This is a very candid, what to say, this sentence is a very candid expression of one of my ART members. She is not a fresher in the field of education. This comes from a teacher who has 21 years of teaching experience. And why does she say that? She got promoted and joined our school. And out of inquisitiveness, just inquisitiveness, she joined the ART, attended the meeting, facilitated, of course, by me, by the mentor, and guided by our HOS. She learned certain skills that were required to teach in the class. She tried, she experimented. And as the time flew, she gained so much confidence in herself that within a few months, we could see the change in her personality, in her way of talking. And in one of those meetings, as Bhavna ma'am just mentioned, we become so reflective and we grow by our reflections. The trust, as you mentioned, John, she gained so much of trust in the group that the ART represents, that she came out with her true feelings, that she has learned to speak. This, I think, truly represents, it sums up the whole program. If after 21 years of teaching, a teacher can say that I have learned to speak now, if she is so confident that she can teach well, if she is so confident that she looks for understanding, as one of the LICs taught us to, she does not know, just know that her students are studying well or not. She also knows whether she is able to get across to the students or not. So if that change we can bring about in our teachers, I think this is the best program that could have gone into the department's list of initiatives. One more example I would like to quote. I was just walking across the corridor of my school and a bunch of girls came running after me. Ma'am, when are you going to come to our class? And what was that? Like, I don't teach you any subject. What do you want me to come for? And they were like, we don't want you to teach to us anything. Our teachers are good to teach. We just want you to come so that whatever the teacher is teaching comes across in a very interesting manner, in a better. And what did that mean? We, as a part of practice of the TTC program, we have class observations, peer observations, observations by TDC, by me, by the mentor. And as is obvious, whenever there is someone for the observation, you tend to be a little more conscious of what you're saying, what you're doing. You obviously tend to be a little more prepared, a little more alert, and be the best of what you are. And the student who had come to me had friends in the other class where I had been for observations a couple of times. And so she was really interested in what all strategies are being followed. So she wanted her teacher also to teach that way. And she thought the only way is calling me to her classroom for observation. So peer observation is another strong point of the TDC and the MT program that I would like to emphasize. Also, one of the ART members reflected that yeah, she was getting very good results. But then she herself was doing it in a very monotonous manner. After the ART meetings, after doing all those energizers that we do, that we begin with in our meetings, she carried them to the class. And now what? The students are as much interested, as much they look forward to her class, as much as she herself, because she has broken the monotony. She never thought she could do those energizers in the class, because it would not be like the contemporary teaching in the classroom. So this is again a very important part of a great learning that we have had from this program. One more reflection from my ART team is the learning log, the do now activities. I am really talking about the ground facts now, whatever we are transacting in the meeting and we are taking to the classroom. These are very popular. The do now activities actually help us to connect the yesterday's lesson to today's lesson. And the students needn't worry about what they learned yesterday, might have forgotten today, because it will be revised anyhow. And those who have learned, those who know it very well, are very eager to share. So without any bias or without any pointing out to students who are actually not so well, everyone gets to learn, gets to recap whatever had been done yesterday. And so they can go on with the new class activity. One more thing I would love to share, and that is the teaching learning strategies in the class. Everyone has been trained professionally, but over the period, we might lose some of the motivation we have, the initiatives we take. But these programs are a great revision for all those strategies. They again bring into us that enthusiasm of teaching. Like was earlier mentioned, that I just wrote it down somewhere. Okay, anyways. So, so whatever we, in the so many other charges and so many other administrative works that we have to do in the schools, teaching sometimes might take a backseat. But then these meetings, this program is a refresher course. They really are a great help. And I'm really indebted that I have got this opportunity to carry out these programs, to, to cascade whatever programs have been given by the department, by diets and SCERT to our mentors, and then to us. And then I have an opportunity. I have the blessing, to carry them forward to my teachers. One more thing, I think the last. Of late, since the ART members were really doing so well and being more and more popular in school, a few non-ART members have also expressed interest. And slowly, as the group is growing now, since a couple of months, the whole staff joins me in the ART. And I'm really glad to announce that we actually formally just have an ART, but the whole staff attends those meetings. We all practice, we all do peer observations, we all are learning from each other. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yeah, really, really useful to hear that brought to life as well, what the experience is like. Well, I don't know about everyone else, but I have lots of questions because there's just so many interesting things to pick up from what all our panelists have said. So as Shadab and Sanya have mentioned in the chat, if you've got a question, if you could write it in the chat, and then they will feed them through for asking to the panelists. So if you could write any question you have in the chat. Now, while we're waiting for that, I might kick us off with a question. So Neeru ma'am has just talked us through sort of the experience of the activities that the ART members at the school level go through. One thing that I would love to understand a little bit is how is the content or what is studied by the teachers in the classroom actually selected? And Anil, so maybe I'll direct that question to you to start off, because you mentioned the core design team earlier, which I know plays an important role in that. Would you like to answer that question for us?
Okay.
So this is how are the themes and content selected for
Right.
for
May
the
I?
program?
May I? Okay. Theme is a very important aspect of this program, as we all are aware. Ki autonomy, mastery, and purpose are a key component of this program. And one of the purpose of this program is to motivate intrinsically all the teachers, because we all know intrinsically motivated teachers enable children to be motivated lifelong learners. Intrinsic motivation is leveraged in this program by giving autonomy to teachers, giving them an environment for continuous professional development, and having a common purpose. Role modeling with growth mindset, safety, curiosity, and critical thinking behaviors at all levels are key features of this program. And on the basis of deliberations with teachers and the feedback received from TDCs and mentor teachers and 10 teachers through program managers of SCERT, we identify theme. Till now, we have a collection of different themes. Some of them are like building connect, that is supporting teachers to build a culture of trust and positive communication in the classroom, ensuring that students feel valued. Okay, I'm valuable in the class. And one more theme, look for understanding and respond, that involves supporting teachers to use assessment to identify gaps between teaching and learning and adapt teaching strategies to fill those gaps. A well-known program, Mission Bunyad, that involves helping uh, teachers learn more about developing reading skills in student. ART members discussed Mission Bunyad and how it can be strengthened in their school. And one more important thing, like teaching learning process in lesson planning, which involves helping teachers plan and sequence lesson activities in a way that is engaging. Planning also help teacher be more deliberate in the strategies and question they used. This also supporting teachers to integrate simple techniques to their teaching to help learners understand and remember what they learn actually. And one more important theme, also classroom routines. It supported teachers to build warm but orderly classroom while transforming. Basically, we all know that learning is in isolation is not possible. But we are talking about transformational learning, while transferring some ownership to the student as well. And if a student feel ownership, so it in default setting it is essential a student can learn easily. So these strategies were introduced to encourage students to think, reflect, journal their learning, and discuss idea among themselves. And after COVID, during COVID, and we are facing the main issue about social and emotional well-being of a student. That's why recent past, we have chosen the theme social emotional well-being, and after that, psychological safety. During pandemic time, teacher educators and teachers and mentor teacher, TDC, all stakeholders, I can say, work very hard for social and emotional well-being of all co-learners, not only is all co-learners to achieve the goal of purposeful learning. So, at last, I would like to add one more thing. All stakeholders are also themselves practice all these practice at all level, and they work as role model for all other stakeholders. If I'm a teacher educator, so I'm role model. I may be a role model for mentor teacher and TDC, and a mentor teacher may be a role model for us also. So, and they all the stakeholders work as role model for other stakeholder in all our LICs, thus creating an environment where everyone can learn. So that's why we always choose theme on the basis of need. Thank you.
Yeah, super helpful, Anil, sir. Thank you for giving that overview. So one question I've seen come through is about how can we improve the experience of teachers in art meetings in particular. So maybe I could direct that to either Bhavna ma'am, maybe start with Bhavna ma'am and then Neeru ma'am, if you could add. How can we improve from what's already there and what teachers are already doing to make it even better?
Thank you for this question, because I wanted to add this point that how can we actually make it better? So one of the important points that I feel is that we teachers are doing so many experiments on daily basis, and we have so many stories to share. But I feel that still the teachers do not document those practices. Teachers who are listening to me to kindly document the practices that we do. Once I do something in my classroom, it may be successful or it may not be successful. So the challenges that I faced or the problems that I faced, if I document them, it can be a good source of learning for others. And if my experiment has been successful, then also, it can be a great learning for others. So our diets, our SCERT, it provides us that platform to, actually write our document our practices and document them in the form of journals or newsletters. There are so many platforms which they provide us, but I think we need to take that step forward and actually write down our practices so that they remain with the teachers 10 years later also. So I think that can be improved. I think Neeru ma'am can add something more to this.
Thank you so much, Bhavna ma'am. It's really a great idea, because learning logs, we are already carrying them out with our students. So why not, use them for us as well? And then again, we can share it with you, and mentors can share it among their schools. So learning logs are a must. We actually do write our teachers' diaries, but you're right, we do not mention what practices we tried, what strategies we tried, whether they worked or not, what challenges we faced. Yes, we do discuss them in our ART meetings. We do discuss. And as a nutshell, as a summary, the TDCs might have them with them. I'm sure all the TDCs must be having a good collection of them. But right, the teachers must have them as well. And then we can all collaborate and build upon those strategies which have worked in the classroom. That's really great. And yes, when I earlier talked about all the teachers joining our ART meetings, what we can improve upon is making it sort of mandatory. It's not mandatory at all currently. So this professional development should be a state which cannot be avoided by anyone. And then there should be a little bit of monitoring on how every teacher has been able to, whether successfully or not, maybe she has felt some challenges, maybe she couldn't yet work upon them and find a solution, but it should be I think for all, not just for the ART. We began with those who were intrinsically motivated. Yes, but then now it's time to motivate everyone. Learning for all, by all.
That's a great point. And I think segues into a question that's coming up a lot in the chat here, that I'm going to ask one of our panelists in just a second. But I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things that were mentioned there. That point about codifying the knowledge that comes out of the ARTs through documentation, I think is really interesting as well, and certainly something to explore. I think one thing that's also that's wonderful about this whole experience is there's people suggesting ways to do that in the chat already as well. So one of our participants has mentioned Delhi Shiksa magazine and various other suggestions in there as well. So that's really nice to see. One question that is coming up a lot here is that highlighting the fact that at the moment this program is focused at the secondary level, and there's a question about is there a way to do this for all teachers in schools across the whole system? So that's a big question. But Vivendra sir, can I maybe direct that one to you to start us off? So the MCD schools, I think we're talking about here.
Hi, John. Hello. Basically, the main mandate of teacher education or in-service teacher education of SCERT is mandate to complete the trainings or capacity building of teachers from MCD or different local bodies, DCB, NDMC, and all the three DMCs. So we are planning with the co-governance group. We have a governance group with Shailendra sir, Teotia sir, and Director SCERT, Dr. Rajanish Kumar Singh. So we are planning. Recently, we have met Commissioner EDMC, East Delhi Municipal Corporation, for expanding this program to MCD schools and EDMC especially. So now we are planning in a phase manner. We are starting, and one is another plan, as you have discussed about a TDC program. We are starting in a phase manner in the primary section as well as in the senior secondary. We are working on it. You will see in the future that we are in a process to complete this mandate. For the capacity building of our teachers in a manner of TDC program with the help of a TDC program. Thank you. John, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivendra. So yeah, very, very clear and very helpful response there to that question. Just one more question that I think is a very interesting one that I've seen here too, is that how would you describe the improvement that you've seen at the school level? Is it just in particular groups of students, or do you see sort of whole school change? And maybe Bhavna ma'am might be best placed to answer that one, if she can hear us.
Yeah, John, could you please repeat your question?
So the question that's come up in the chat is, what do you see as the improvement in schools? Is it just pockets of students in a particular school, or do you see a whole school improvement in the schools that you work with?
Okay. So thank you for this question, because as I said that, initially, Shailendra sir also shared that whenever we start with any program, initially there are certain resistances. Everyone is not that accepting to take on the new programs, new ideas. So we may not have 100% result in any program, any initiative. It takes time. So yes, we have started discussing in ART meetings. We have started sharing our practices in ART meetings, and those teachers have actually, when they have applied those strategies in classrooms, their classroom environment has really improved. But as I said, there is still a scope of improvement. We have still not been able to achieve 100% improvement in all the classes, because we still need to reach out to non-ART members, which we are doing through faculty meetings. So what happens is that when a strategy is shared in ART meetings, ART members further share them with their non-ART friends in faculty meetings. And from faculty meetings, it goes on to their classrooms. But yes, of course, we are, slowly and steadily, we are increasing our horizons. But yes, 100% is yet to be achieved. One more improvement that I can see through these programs is that, since teachers are sitting together and discussing their problems, they have got that space to share, which was earlier missing. So when I was struggling in my class, I was all alone struggling in my class. I didn't have any way out, and I could not even share it with my peers or my friends. Now that when we sit together and when we share, I understand that I have somebody to support, I have somebody to guide, and even if I fail, it's okay. I'm a human being, I have a community to support me. And as Sir rightly mentioned, there are no hierarchies in the system. So we work as a team. We are there to support each other. So there is a lot of hand holding in this program. There's a lot of support in this program, which actually makes it very, very beautiful. And the teachers have actually come close to each other. And in the beginning also, Pandey sir also said that, we have been able to start that academic culture in our schools. We have been able to establish those academic discussions in our schools, which were actually not there initially. So in free period, we used to talk about anything except academics, but now it is more academic oriented. I think sir wants to add something.
Yeah, Bhavna rightly said, in this era of technology, I think two aspects we have to work on that. One is technological skills, because all are aware that knowledge is power, and understanding these technological skills are more important to teachers and as well as students also. And in this global village of knowledge, it is also important thing, information, in the word of information, knowing the right answer is actually becoming less important. It is more important than how we can ask answer. So means questioning is skill, how we can enable student they can pose questions in freely manner and with joy. And the second one is technological skill. John, I think there are two aspects we have to work on that also.
Yeah, super interesting. Very interesting point about knowledge there as well. Thank you for sharing that. We've heard a lot from the panel here about what's working really well in the system and why it's worked and what some of the challenges are too. And I personally feel I've learned an awful lot from listening to each of you. I'd love to finish, I guess, by asking a question for Shailendra sir and to Pandey sir. What happens going forward? What are your hopes for the future of communities of practice in Delhi? So I'm not sure if Pandey sir can hear us. In which case, while we're waiting, Vivendra sir, maybe you could take that question about the future. What do you see as the future?
John, may I?
Anil sir, yeah, please, if you'd like to start off, and then we'll go to Vivendra sir.
Okay, Team STAR Education and all other stakeholders from Delhi government system, means teacher, educator, mentor teacher, and teachers and TDCs. We are thinking for future, this program may be aligned in more effective manner with other programs as we are doing. And as VK Pathak, Virender Pathak also stated, we are aligning all the programs. And in near future, all the leaders like HOS and middle managers, DDs, and I think some members from SMC, school management committee, maybe the part in designing, not directly, indirectly, we can take feedback from parents also through SMCs and middle managers also. Presently, they are not actively engaged. They are engaged, but not actively engaged. So in near future, we can provide such type of platform. On that platform they can also engage actively and uh, provide appropriate feedback, so that we can design more beautifully this program in the near future in more effective manner.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Anil, sir. Devendra, sir, would you like to add anything?
Yes, sir. As Dr. Anil Teotia, sir, stated that is extra to this, I am adding some points. First one is we are aligning all the programs, theme-based programs in the INSET, through INSET. All the curriculums or all the capacity building programs are aligned with within the one umbrella, that is INSET, in-service education and training through SCERT. Other than this, we are introduced newly recruited our strength, that is BRPs in SCERT. They are working on observation skills or observations of the TDC program. They are observing. We are planning ahead to go further as a requirement of TDC program. These are the two basic aspects. We are aligning all the programs, and second thing, we are in the process to complete or maybe that is a good initiative to start new logical things. That is John.
Very right.
Yeah, thanks very much, Devendra, sir. Now we're almost at time, so Bhavna ma'am or Neeru ma'am, if you've got any quick points you'd like to add on the future, if you care to share them. No pressure if not, but if you do, please go ahead.
No, there's no pressure at all. So we love working 24/7. So that is the beauty of our this program. So thank you, sir. So one more point I think that can be added is that we have a system of half an hour, 30 minutes after the school. When children leave school, teachers are there in school for half an hour extra. I think we can utilize that half an hour in a more productive manner. And, like that, while we were talking about discussions in ART meetings, so we cannot just confine ourselves to once in a month meeting. We can have, a follow-up of the practices that we are doing, the strategies that we are doing, any challenges that are coming while implementing those strategies. So we can have a follow-up or a small, kind of a small meet or something in those 30 minutes. So I think that 30 minutes still needs to be, utilized in a more productive manner. And of course, faculty meetings are conducted in those 30 minutes. But in those faculty meetings, instead of only talking about the content, if we can talk more about new and innovative practices that we are following in our subject, in our topics. So I think, and that can be a very good way of connecting and making bonds with each other. So, when we connect emotionally, our efficiency or effectiveness also increases.
Right.
Neeru ma'am may add.
Just we're at time now. I just want to make sure that Neeru ma'am has got a chance to add anything final before.
Yes. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much for the time. I just wanted to add one thing to what Bhavna ma'am has just said. Those 30 minutes after the school, the students have left. You know what we are doing? We are, in a short way, building the capacity of our teachers in terms of technology. The concern that you just raised. Actually, many of the teachers have made PowerPoint presentations and are using technology really well in these online classes during the pandemic when we were all home. But so many of them, so many of our teachers still lack the expertise in making a PowerPoint presentation, which is an excellent way of getting across to the students. So in these 30 minutes, our computer science faculty is helping us to train the teachers. So this is one initiative we have taken up. Earlier, thank you so much, Bhavna. Earlier, we held sessions on how to go about the Google Classroom, how to make a Google Classroom, how to enable students to join it, and how to give assignments and receive the submissions from them. Then we worked on Google Forms, how that works, on MCQs, and also on the descriptive questions. The teachers can actually correct the descriptive answers of the students. And now the third part is how to make a PowerPoint presentation. Let's see what goes next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neeru, ma'am. Thank you so much to all our panelists today, to Shailendra sir, Pandey sir, Anil sir, Vivendra sir, Neeru ma'am, and Bhavna ma'am. Thank you so much for all your contributions to this very, very rich discussion. Certainly, I'd just like to say that there is lots that we'll take away from STIR education, both in the work we do with you in Delhi, but also globally as well. I think there's just so much for us to learn from what Delhi is doing, and it's really inspiring to listen to you all today. So thank you so much. Thank you for all who have attended and for the questions in the chat as well. Thank you very much to Shadab, Sanya, and the Delhi STIR team as well for the organisation in this. And yeah, have a great weekend, everyone, and look forward to continuing the conversation with you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, John and All-in-One.